Good morning. This is Professor Anderson with a little bit of feedback for your writing assignment number 1, the rough draft. So I want to share with you quickly that the way that I review writing assignments, I have like a twofold process. The first is what I call the nuts and bolts. I just scan through visually to make sure all the components are available. And then I recomb through with a little bit of a nitty gritty or a finer tooth comb with respect to grammar, stylistic approaches, and syntax. So if I just do the nuts and bolts, I see you have the first part in a relative paragraph form, the second part, a list of identifying barriers, then a table to show specific incidents, and then another paragraph form. So if I look at the nuts and bolts, I see that you have all the components available. When I go back through and I look at the nitty gritty or the stylistic components, grammar, and so forth, I work in a large government enterprise in Maryland, and the enterprise consists of all 5 branches of the military, along with government civilian employees and government contracted employees. We focus on maintaining our systems. So here you have great understanding of what the job is. Describe a little bit more of the physical structure itself and how many people are there. There's 500 people in my office. There's rotating shifts of 25 people each night that run our. So give a little bit more of an understanding of what the environment physically looks like, and then what the types of communication are within that. So here you have underneath, you have 8-hour shifts, rotate daily. One shift passes the information to others, proves to be much more difficult than it seems. How do they do that? Is it done through email? Is it done through a briefing? Is it done through a checklist? Is there a database that allows things to be handed off to one another? So just a brief understanding, because the purpose of this paper is to look at the whole of the situation and identify a specific problem. And it's difficult to identify the specific problem if you don't have an understanding of like the physical components, the personnel components, and so then the communication elements also. Part 2, excellent. You use what's called parallel structure. You have everything aligned in bullet form, or you have a synonymous format for all of the items in this series. You've identified or highlighted and bolded the label itself, and then used the parallel structure to give the definition for each of them. Inside of your examples or your table, what I recommend is just putting labels above here. Add one more row and label this either incident or situation, and then barrier, and then analysis. Because what you're really doing, that's just when you're utilizing a table for fact-based or for fact delivery, you need to make certain that it's clear exactly what takes place in each one of those columns. So I would recommend adding a label to each one of these. I like how you've given very specific situations, identified the barrier, and then talked about why or how it affected future communications. Make certain to include how that is considered a cultural barrier. And then at the end, I recommend taking out these first-person implications or these first-person statements. First-person statements in professional writing lead to a more opinionated and emotional line of relation of the facts that you're presenting. So you're presenting this situation took place, it was this barrier, it caused this. And these are the facts that help you to evaluate and come up with this score. So instead of I try to think it's like this, I think it's like that, you need to state simply, cultural barriers exist within our organization. These barriers promote a dissonance among office workers, not, avoid the personal feeling there. So I think that if you take those into consideration, I look forward to reading your final paper.